Welcome back to It's Personal, brought to you by Gunderson Health System. I'm Chris Stauffer. Well, when a lot of people think about Gunderson Health System, one of the things that is creeping in more and more is green, whether it's green energy or opportunities to save money by going green. Talking about that here today is Alan Eber. He is the Director of Facility Operations at Gunderson Health System. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.
Let's talk about some of the projects that Gunderson has undertaken. And one that is, I know you've talked about several times, that is super successful, actually isn't even on the Gunderson campus in La Crosse. It's in Sparta. Can you talk about the success of the new Sparta Clinic?
Yeah, this is the first building that we designed and built since we achieved our first day of energy independence in 2014, where the organization said we want to continue down that path and make all of our buildings energy neutral. So in the design and construction of that building, we spent a lot of time and effort working towards that end. And what we're seeing here after being operational for 1 year is we are well along that way to be energy independent for that specific building.
What makes the Sparta Clinic stand out? I know you've got solar, just energy efficiency. There's just so many different things, and I from what I understand, you kind of set the bar, and you've kind of jumped way above the bar as far as being energy independent in that facility.
Yeah, there's a couple of things about being energy independent when you talk about a specific building, and the first is you have to make it extraordinarily efficient itself. The building itself has to use very little energy. So what we do when we design new buildings is we set specific targets for our architects and engineers to achieve. And the targets that we've really been looking at are about half of what the average building in this area achieves. So for Sparta, for example, a typical building there would be about, we use BTUs, which is a form of energy, a measurement of energy. And what a typical building like that would typically be is 70, 75 kBtu per square foot. Well, we gave our architects and engineers the challenge of designing it to 35 kBtu per square foot.
How did they react to that?
When we started doing this, people are a little hesitant and talk about how they can't do it. But as they come on board and we look for opportunities, they ultimately get pretty excited and want to strive towards those goals. This is a challenge for everybody. And when we are hitting these challenges, it's exciting for everybody to do that. So they turn around and they get on board with us as we move forward.
So you set the challenge at 35 kBtu?
Yes.
And how did they do?
They did better than we expected. We had some energy models that were created for this so we could predict what we would get. And what we're seeing is we're actually better than what the energy models were predicting, and the prediction was 35. So we're on a run rate right now of about 33 kBtu per square foot for the building energy itself.
The beautiful thing about that is then it's saving energy. We certainly know that, but it's saving money for patients and for employers in this region.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk about this as a two-sided green. One, we're trying to reduce our fossil fuel emissions. The second is we believe, and not only do we believe, I think we've proven that we can do this while saving money for our patients and customers.
So let's talk a little bit about what's in Sparta. We've got solar, you've got things like glass, simple things like that. What other things are, well, first of all, I should have you explain those two things, but what other things are in the building that is making it so energy efficient?
Well, in the design of the building, in order to get to this 35 kBtu per square foot, there were some outside of the box things that we needed to do. The first thing that we do is we look at the insulation and the materials used to build the walls and the ceilings and the floors and make sure that we don't lose heat that we already have or lose cooling that we already have. So we keep the energy we want inside the building and keep the energy we don't want outside of the building with the fenestration of it. So that's step one. Step two is as we were looking at this building, air volume is a big factor in the efficiency of it. So we found a very good way to reduce the amount of air energy that we had to put into the air to move it around. And we did this with what we're calling, or what is called, distributed heat pumps. So in this building, there are over 30 heat pumps in specific locations, so we don't have to move the air from one end of the building back to the center and then right back out to that building. We keep the air on that side of the building and recirculate it and condition it in that area. And that also, we bring in outdoor air through a very efficient method, which is we take the energy that's already inside of the building, and as we're exhausting it, we take that energy and put it right back into the outside air that's coming in, so we don't have to add energy to it using fossil fuels or any other sort of method. And the probably the biggest thing that we did is we're using a geothermal well. So all of the heat that comes into that building is coming through the geothermal well. And all of the heat that's in the building that we're getting rid of is going right back into the ground through that geothermal well. So it's kind of an energy storage device for us. In the summertime, we throw energy out there, and in the wintertime, we go back and grab it and bring it inside the building.
Now, a lot of people would say, well, that's fine and dandy because you're able to put the upfront costs and you're able to, afford that. What would you say to those folks?
We're going to have this building for 50 years. So if you take a look at the cost of a building associated with that 50-year life of the building, it's about 25% of the cost is in construction. 75% of that building cost is in the operation of the building for the rest of that time. So it doesn't make sense to be short-sighted on the construction of the building when you have that 75% opportunity in the rest of the time that you're going to be in that building. So we're seeing paybacks on these energy efficiencies less than 7 years. And we have a 7-year payback on a 50-year building. That's a pretty easy decision to make.
Absolutely, and we all know energy costs are not necessarily going down either, right?
That's correct.
We're talking with Alan Eber. He's the Director of Facility Operations at Gunderson Health System. I want to talk to you about some of the things that are happening on the La Crosse campus specifically, some big success stories there. Many people are not aware that wood chips are utilized on the La Crosse campus. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, this is really a great project that we have here at Gunderson. In 2013, we started heating every building in our La Crosse campus with wood instead of using natural gas, which was quite an interesting challenge. People thought about, well, how in the world are you going to burn wood in downtown La Crosse to heat your hospital? But we're able to do it, and we've done it very successfully for the past 5 years. So what we do is instead of burning natural gas, we have a boiler, and we put wood inside of that boiler, and we burn the wood, and we make enough steam to heat our entire facility in downtown La Crosse until it gets to be about 30 degrees outside. Then we need to supplement that one boiler with some other natural gas boilers. The beautiful part about this project for me, the thing that I get most excited about, is we get to work with suppliers within a 50-mile radius of La Crosse. So instead of buying this natural gas from states other than Wisconsin and people that have no idea who Gunderson is, we get to buy our energy source from people within a 50-mile radius that actually come and use our facility. So to me, that's one of the best parts of this whole project.
So wood chips is really what you're using. It's not, it's not something you're cutting out in the back 40. It's actually wood chips that are coming from. Maybe you can even share where they're coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. Just so everybody knows, there has never been a tree cut down for us to burn wood for our hospital. The wood that we get all come from, we have 6 different sources, and they're all local. They all do the same thing. They all take rough cut lumber from the woods, and they make lumber for other places for it. Now, as they're making lumber comes in rectangles, and trees are round. So there's scraps that are associated with making that lumber. So what they do is they take their scraps, they make chips out of them, and then we work with the trucking company to bring those chips over to our campus, and that's what we burn.
Pretty amazing stuff, and it's something that I know you've given several tours to people very interested in learning more about that process. But you mentioned the boiler system. One of the most energy efficient things that you could possibly imagine, because you're burning wood,
right,
and you're heating the campus, heating and cooling the campus.
Yes, and we do more than just heat our campus with that project. The other thing we do is it's a combined heat and power. So the steam that we make at a high pressure, and then we put that through a steam turbine generator. So we're actually take that high pressure steam and then deliver lower pressure steam, and with the energy through that, we make electricity. And that electricity we put right back on our facility. So we're not just heating our facility, but we're also providing a substantial amount of electricity that we no longer have to purchase from the utilities, and we no longer have to burn fossil fuel for, because this is coming from a renewable resource.
Do people believe you when you tell them that wood chips are used to,
the people that haven't heard anything about it, they're like, there's no way you're burning wood in downtown La Crosse to heat your hospital. But then when you show them the wood, they're all in awe. It's really fun to give tours of that facility.
We're talking with Alan Eber, Director of Facility Operations at Gunderson Health System. I want to talk to you about, if we can, geothermal, because underneath a parking lot at Gunderson Health System, there are some geothermal, what do you want to call them, tubes?
Yeah, we call them wells, and what they are is they're basically large hoses that have good thermal conductivity, and they go down in the ground 400 feet and then come back up. And the purpose of them is to transfer energy from the water. So if we're trying to cool our buildings, what we do is we send warm water out to that geothermal well, and as it goes underground, it'll take that warm water and transfer the heat out into the ground and come back a little bit cooler. And with that cooler water, it's a much more efficient way for us to cool our building. And in the summertime, we do exactly the opposite. We send cold water out there, and it warms up through the ground a little bit, and then we can take that energy through heat in the water and turn that around and very efficiently heat our buildings.
Sounds amazing. It really does. And a lot of people don't understand that this is happening right in their backyard at Gunderson Health System in La Crosse. Other facilities looking at doing this, whether it's school districts or is it other health systems? Have you given tours? Have you talked about this to other people?
Yeah, we talk about this quite a bit, and we do know there are some schools actually right here in La Crosse that are using geothermal well systems. I believe it's the Northside School. They have put this in the last few years as well. We toured their facility, and they're doing something very similar to what we're doing in Sparta.
Is this the future?
I think it is the future for especially regions like Wisconsin where the water table and the temperatures of the ground really fit well. Yeah.
We're talking with Alan Eber, Director of Facility Operations at Gunderson Health System. What's next? What's next on the plate for Gunderson Health System? What other projects are potentials out there for opportunity?
Well, what we have started doing and what we will continue to do is when we do build new buildings or do remodels, we work extremely hard to make them as efficient as possible. So every building that we build will be better than 50% of the national average for energy efficiency. So we will continue to do that, and we're going through and we're in the design process now of a couple of buildings. The other thing that has happened in the last 4 years for sure is solar prices have come down to where that's becoming a fairly reasonable payback for us. We didn't go down that road before because the paybacks on them weren't great, and we're not trying to spend people's money to be energy efficient. Again, we're trying to save people money by being energy efficient.
And let's face it, when people think of Wisconsin, they don't always think sunshine. They think maybe,
Right.
Arizona, but with the prices coming down, it's more viable.
Yeah, we're starting to see the cost-benefit curve on that become advantageous to us. So we are starting to look at more places where we can do solar projects. In fact, we're going to start a project here in May where we put some solar on a building here in La Crosse and feed that power right back into our facilities.
I'm sure that's the behavioral health building.
Yes,
I've already
it's
heard
the
that.
behavioral building.
Now, I also know that the Onalaska Clinic has almost a farm on top of the clinic of solar panels.
We don't quite call it a farm; we call it a garden. But you could that one's about the size of a farm, I guess. In fact, what we've learned is at the time that we installed it, it was the largest privately owned solar garden with our utilities that was connected to our utilities. But still, even though it's connected to our utilities, we're taking all of that power and putting it right back into our clinic up in Onalaska. Yeah.
As an individual, should people be looking more into solar as an opportunity?
That's their own personal preference. If that's what they want to do or not. But I can tell you the solar projects now, they're being warranted for 25 years. And we're seeing, 10 to 15-year payback. So that's a guaranteed savings for you. So if you're looking at it for financially, it makes sense to go down that road.
All right. If you want to learn more about any of these projects, you can certainly go to the Gunderson Health System website. That's gundersonhealth.org.